Good morning. Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name is Corrine Sprague and I am the Interim Executive Director of LAGCO. As you know, our nation has been severely impacted by COVID-19 pandemic over the last several months. In addition, the price of oil dropping to historic lows only compounded an already stressed economy. Thousands of oil and gas workers across the nation were laid off, especially in the Acadiana area. LAGCO recognized an opportunity for education to our oil and gas community with this webinar. Our goal this morning is for you to pick up on one or two tips that you can apply today to aid in your job search. I would now like to introduce our panelists. We have Kim Bilodeau with UL Career Services, Gifford Briggs with Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, Betsy Hinman with the Hinman Company, and Ryan LaGrange with Lafayette Economic Development Authority. Thank you each for being here. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge and expertise to provide information relevant to our participants during this time. Before we begin, I have two housekeeping items to share. All participants are muted as a default of the Zoom webinar. However, we invite you to submit questions via the Q&A chat box that you see at the bottom of your screen. At the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A section with the panelists. Also, we will be recording this webinar and will post to the LAGCO website for you to reference afterwards. And now let's begin. It is my pleasure to introduce Gifford Briggs with LOGA. Gifford, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today. So I hope everybody's doing well and staying safe and healthy during the COVID pandemic. It's very difficult times for everyone and for our country right now, and hopefully we're spending a lot of time in prayer to be able to move us through this. I've been asked to sort of provide an update or a state of the industry, where the industry is today, and I think it's best to do that by starting back briefly and looking at how we got up until this point. In 2016, OPEC and Russia came together to cut production that created an uptick in pricing after the crash from 14 to 16, and people in Lafayette and Acadiana are very familiar with that, as we were #1 in the nation for job losses. But those cuts drove prices up, and for the better part of 4 years, we've had fairly stable, good pricing that allowed for investment, particularly in shales and West Texas, and with stability that industry needed. And we saw jobs starting to come back. Then in March, OPEC and Russia met again in the very beginning of March and decided that they did not want to maintain their production cuts. And when they did that, the prices went from about $47 on Friday down to $31 on Monday. And it really started the crash. So it wasn't COVID that kicked it off. It was Russia and OPEC in signaling they were going to flood the market with oil in order to wage war on U.S. shale producers again. Then we had the COVID pandemic hit and shut down our economy, both in Louisiana, but also as a nation and really around the globe, shut down economies everywhere. And so once everybody became locked in their houses, the demand for oil, and particularly for gasoline from planes and ships and cars, it just plummeted, which sent prices spiraling down to $20 until we got to April, where we actually saw the price of oil fall below zero for the first time ever. It was an amazing series of events that led the price of oil to drop, and it immediately the next day started to come back. And then in May, we saw as some loosenings of the economy, where people are just not wanting to stay at home anymore. We started seeing demand for energy picking back up, and as it picked back up, we saw that the prices started to follow with it. And so we got to where we are today, which is right about in the mid 30s, and prices have stalled there. You know, I was having this conversation some other day. It's amazing to think that we get excited about $35 oil, but that just shows you how far down we really were. But $35 is well below the break-even price of what we need here in Louisiana. And while companies might be able to continue producing, no one's going to be, or very few are going to be able to make investments in this climate to drill and produce and explore for new wells. And natural gas, the story is very similar. And looking forward, you know, what does it mean for the industry? I mean, one, I think everybody has to understand that the oil's not going away. Natural gas isn't going away. I know there are some that have said that this is the revolution that was necessary in order for renewables to take off. The reality is low energy prices are the worst things for renewables because gasoline and oil and natural gas are so cheap right now. It doesn't make sense to use any other fuel but those. Uh, the real challenge is what does the future hold for the industry, you know, from an investment standpoint, an employment standpoint. And right now we have the one thing the industry doesn't need, and that's uncertainty. You know, our rig count is 301 today. That is the lowest that it has ever been, at least as far back as the records I could find. We always talk about the 80s in Lafayette. I mean, in that area, we had 705 rigs in the United States, and we're down to 300 today at its lowest point in the 80s. And so we are well below where we need to be able to sustain an industry and sustain our economy for sure in Louisiana. Um, you know, the uncertainty about what OPEC's going to do. They obviously are still a major player um, in the prices of oil globally, and so what they're going to role they're going to play, and what's going to happen with COVID. Are we going to get to November, December, January again, and all of a sudden we hit another wave of it, and it shuts the economy down again, driving demand and prices down? And so this uncertainty is definitely going to continue to freeze investment dollars. And then in Louisiana, when those investment dollars come back, they're not coming here. Unfortunately, our legal climate, particularly in South Louisiana, is just an absolute deterrent. I hear time and time again that investors say, I will invest anywhere you want to, but Louisiana, because I'm not interested in being involved in these coastal or legacy lawsuits. We have the highest severance tax rate on oil in the nation, and so you know companies are going to be looking to when they can invest again. Where's the best environment, the most predictable environment that gets the highest rate of return? And right now, Louisiana has many challenges that are standing in our way to be able to attract those dollars. And so, you know, we've seen our workforce move to Texas, we've seen our workforce commute to Texas. And I think for those that are working in the industry, that's probably not going to change anytime in the near future. But again, our industry is resilient. The need and thirst for oil and for natural gas and cheap fuel is not going away. And so we're definitely going to be here to play a part in it long into the future.
Gifford, thank you for that. That was just an amazing update. We wish everyone well, especially you in the coming days and weeks with the legislature, as well as just all the conversations with big oil and gas.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So now I'm happy to introduce Ryan LaGrange. He is with LEDA. Good morning, Ryan, and welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Are we going to transition some of the slides here?
Yes. Let's see.
So while you're doing that, I'll just kind of provide some information about LEDA and the organization. We often get that question, what does LEDA do? And we work with businesses that are either starting, expanding, or relocating, and provide any support necessary for companies within those areas to create new jobs within Lafayette Parish. And I serve as the manager of workforce development. Oftentimes I'm there to make those ties between companies' need and make those connections with workers that are seeking employment. So what I hope to do today is share some resources and information that can assist individuals that are seeking employment. But before I do that, I just want to kind of give you a little information about the economic conditions. So if we can transition to the next slide. And one more click there. So Lafayette Parish economy has always had strong ties to the energy sector. And our local economy, of course, we have that strong history. We've been tracking unemployment data back to the mid to early 90s. And typically our unemployment rate ranges between 4 and 5%. 4% unemployment is considered a healthy economy. I know when I started here at LIDA about 12 years ago, we were close to 2.5% unemployment, which means companies were having a really hard time finding workers to fill their needs. And then, looking back at the 80s, I know my dad worked in oil field in the 80s, and he was one of the many displaced individuals. At that time, our economy, our total economy in Lafayette Parish was about 70% tied to the energy sector. In 2016, though, we had a large energy downturn in the sector, yet our economy was about 45% tied to the energy sector. So there was a little bit of a different story. Yes, we had a lot of families hurting, but people were able to pivot. Most of them had dual income. We have a large other industries that were able to kind of carry us through. And 2019, we looked at the data, and it's about 29% of our economy is solely tied to the energy sector. Now, in the 2016 downturn, we did reach our highest unemployment rate at the time, and it reached within a 15-year period, it reached about 7% unemployment. And the Lafayette region lost about 16,500 jobs across all sectors, because anytime there's an energy downturn, there is a trickle-down effect to those other sectors. So energy was also our third largest employing industry at the time. Now they're about sixth as far as within our region, how many folks are employed within the industry. And that was over 3,300 jobs lost within that time frame directly within the energy sector itself. Now, unemployment levels as of March 21st, which is when COVID hit, we have over 77,000 workers who have filed for unemployment. Our unemployment rate currently is over 13%. So first time we've seen double digits in quite a long time in our area. And what we're seeing is a lot of industries have kind of put a pause. They've even furloughed or maybe even laid off some workers at this time. But although we see some industries starting to bring folks back. If we can go to the next slide, I just want to talk about in the 2016 downturn, our area came together with several community partners and created the Acadiana Opportunity Initiative. So while the energy sector was seeing mass layoffs, our community decided, what can we do to help individuals pivot, what career path they have so that they can sustain a lifestyle for their family. Many workers went into other industries, may have been construction, transportation, distribution, as a temporary thing. Gifford mentioned earlier, many folks still live here and have families here, but yet they're working in Texas. So we saw a lot of transition of individuals moving to other areas. And so the Acadiana Opportunity Initiative that was launched in 2016 was a way to connect individuals with opportunities to help them transition. And so individuals can fill out a short lead form, and it was a way to connect them to training opportunities, federal funded scholarships and grants to help individuals look at other opportunities so that they can transition and continue supporting their families locally. We also hosted 4 industrial job fairs. The first one that we held in 2016 attracted over 2,400 displaced oil field workers at this one-day event. It was a huge turnout, but we were able to identify construction and transportation and other types of manufacturing companies that were still hiring at that time. We also saw our community college develop a lot of rapid new training programs in the areas of construction, transportation, power linemen for utility workers, even healthcare, which had other needs. So now if we can go to the next transition, we've been working with One Acadiana, the community college, LSUE, the university, our Acadiana Workforce Solutions partners to relaunch the Acadiana Opportunity Initiative for 2020. We know that there's a lot of people that are displaced, companies that are just not ready to hire right now. Many folks have hit the unemployment rolls, and at this time, if we can make connections with those displaced workers to our workforce system, possibly have them tap into some of the displaced worker training programs. There's grants that can help offset the costs for individuals that want to retrain while they're retooling their career, and also connect them with other openings that are still hiring. And we're going to talk about some of those resources. We do have several of those. But the retraining scholarships, on the job training grants go to businesses to allow businesses to train folks in-house, but it's a way to offset some of that initial expense and risk that they take when they hire an individual. And then, of course, scholarships for youth and a variety of other programs. So at acadianaopportunity.com, individuals can fill out a simple form lead sheet, which provides information to the local workforce office. Everyone that does register there will receive a contact from Acadiana Workforce Solutions, one of the career counselors that can either assist them with seeking careers, updating their resume, or it may be accessing some of these federal grants to retool and retrain. If we can transition over, I want to talk now a little bit about some of the employment initiatives and opportunities. As I mentioned, Acadiana Workforce Solutions is our local partner that operates our workforce system within the region. They provide career counseling, referrals, and job placement, and the scholarships we talked about. And of course, they have been hosting a number of virtual job fairs. We know it's difficult for folks to gather at this time. So just a couple weeks ago, they had a virtual job fair with several companies that had urgent hiring needs right now. And it was a chat-based system, but it did allow individuals seeking employment to connect with companies directly. And they had over 250 job seekers that attended that event. Additionally, our state agency, Louisiana Workforce Commission, does administer their hire system at louisianaworks.net, which is the largest job database in the state. It's free for companies, free for individuals. I know folks that are on unemployment right now maybe use this site to file their unemployment claim, but they also have a large, robust component that helps match individuals with employment opportunities. And they have 129 current openings listed on that site just within Lafayette Parish alone, more within the region, of course. If we go to the next slide, I have some more resources. LEDA, we host a number of employment-related career sites. The Lafayette.org/job fair talks about some of the upcoming career events that are taking place. There's actually a career event taking place today, starting at 11. There's a company seeking remote workers. So there may be some, customer service remote workers. There may be opportunities to pivot, do something for a while we're waiting for rebound and while you're retraining and retooling. Also, the COVID-19 jobs on Lafayette.org/help wanted has over 683 current openings. Some of them are urgent needs with retail and local providers. We also have Hub Enterprises seeking security guards, and they actually have a contract with the state to hire contact tracers, which has to do with tracking down folks that had the COVID virus previously and who they interacted with. So some of these other remote opportunities. And then LEDA's virtual job fair postings at Lafayette.org/jobs. Louisiana Job Connection is another resource that I just want to point out. It is the Louisiana Economic Development's job board when they're working with clients that are expanding and growing and moving into the area. So I know we experienced that with some of our clients. Technology industry, for instance, has not stopped hiring. Throughout COVID, they've been doing doing their regular recruitment process, which is why we held a technology job fair a week ago. But you can find several of those prospects through louisianajobconnection.com. And next slide, please. The last slide here that I have just has a number of upcoming events. These are some annual events that we host, and I know some of them are far out. I'm expecting a few others to possibly come up along the way, but the LEDA Job Fair was originally anticipated to be held at the Cajun Dome on May 6th. Obviously, without the ability to have large groups gathering, we had to push it back. The event will take place August 6th. We will still have it at the Cajun Dome Convention Center. It will be a physical event. I've actually been working closely with the Cajun Dome to come up with a route, a way to socially distant our booths and the individuals that are waiting to talk to recruiters at booths. So we have a whole different setup this year. And we are expecting, a large number of companies that have urgent needs to participate. There will be employment opportunities coming. We also annually host a reentry job fair, a diversity job fair, and a professional career reception all later this year that we're hoping to continue as normal. So that's all I have as far as initial resources. Be happy to answer questions as we go later on in the event.
Thank you, Ryan. All of that was good information, and good luck with today's job fair at 11 o'clock. So now we're going to turn it over to Kim Bilodeau. She's with UL Lafayette's Career Services Department. Kim, we're happy to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, Corrine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to join the panel today and to give some resume tips to our participants. In this virtual job search, your resume is your first impression. And so I encourage you to really, take a look at your resume and think about what picture are you painting of your skills, of your past experiences. Put yourself in the reviewer's seat. And so really try to take a look at it from the lens of the person that's reviewing your resume. They want to see not only your past work experience, but they want to see what skills you have. Where are your strengths? And so we encourage you to make sure that you're displaying that through some of the bullet points and some of the things that you're writing within your resume. And so I thought the first thing I would do is just really talk about some do's and then some don'ts when it comes to resume writing. So many of you likely have a resume together already. And so it's just a matter of updating that resume, making sure you're talking about your skills, your strengths, your competencies, and how that could possibly relate if you're looking to pivot into a new industry. Looking at competencies, and let me very quickly talk about that. In knowing that some of the competencies you've gained through your previous work experience in the oil and gas industry are skills and competencies that you can apply to any industry. And so, where are your strengths? Are you a good problem solver? Are you a good critical thinker? Those are skills that you can translate into any other job or any industry, but you just need to make sure that you're displaying that in your current resume. So some quick resume do's. Do customize your resume for each job. This is not a one size fits all. So, we encourage you to really make sure that you're writing that resume for the job you're seeking. So take a look at the job description, the job that you're applying for, and make sure your resume talks to that job description. Don't think they're going to read between the lines. They want to see that you've done your homework, that you've customized the resume for the job that you're applying for. Use powerful verbs. So tailor the keywords. What are some of the things that job description talks about, and make sure that you're using that in your resume. But using these powerful verbs can really give your resume some action. And then of course, use bullet points. We know oftentimes recruiters will give your resume about a 20 to 30-second glance. So when you think about the short time frame, you need to capture their attention very quickly. And so writing long paragraphs on your resume may not be the best way to do that. And so we encourage you to use bullet points. So really use those action verbs, those powerful verbs that I just mentioned, and start off those bullet points. It could really add a lot of action to your resume and could really draw in the reader to want to meet you and want to get to know more about you. We also encourage you to include unpaid work that shows your leadership. And so this could include volunteering. This could include even those things that you do in your spare time. So it's not work that you're being paid for, but it shows the service that you're doing within your community, within an organization that you're interested in. So this could come in many different shapes. This is also something that you can do right now if you're not working but looking to continue to fill in your resume. Look for those opportunities to volunteer within your community. There's lots of organizations that could use the help right now. And so this is a good way to serve your community, but also to continue building your resume. We also encourage you to put relevant information above the fold. So what that means is when I'm reading a resume, I want to see the most relevant information first. So I don't want to have to read all the way down to the bottom of the page to see what's relevant to my company. And so making sure you're putting that relevant information first. And this comes back to customizing your resume for each job, where you may have something at the top of your resume for one job, but then bump it down to the bottom of the resume for a different job. So really, if I'm reading it right off the bat, catch my attention, show me how you can be a good qualified applicant for my company. And then do spell check and proofread. So we often depend on spell check on our computer, and that's not enough. We do encourage you to have someone else look over your resume, check for your spelling and proofread and make sure that you're sending out an error-free resume. Ryan earlier mentioned some great resources and great organizations that are here to help you, such as Acadiana Workforce Commission, LWC. A lot of them have career counselors or individuals that can help you in really proofing in your resume. At the university, in my office in career services, we help UL students and alumni with getting their resume in check. And then my last do is to make sure you PDF your document. So oftentimes you are applying online, you are submitting your resume via email. And so I encourage you, don't just submit it as a Word document. Convert that to a PDF document to just to protect the format of your resume, and making sure that it's not a different version of a Word program that you're using to create that resume than the reader has. And so PDFing your document can really help to protect that document. Again, as it might be forwarded to different individuals within an organization. So next, I'd like to talk about very quickly, some don'ts when it comes to resume writing. Don't go over one page. And there are exceptions to this, of course, but generally a one-page resume works well for job seekers because, again, we're only putting the relevant information. We're not listing every single thing we've done. You can, choose to include those things that are relevant to the job you're seeking. So that one page really could be sufficient. However, if you have a lot of relevant experience, have held a lot of leadership roles, have several years of experience, and that two-page resume absolutely is necessary. But just make sure the most relevant information is on the first page. I had a recruiter share with candidates one time. She said, when it comes to two-page resumes, make me want to read the second page. Because if I don't see anything interesting on the first page, I'm not going to read the second page. So again, that refers back to making sure that the relevant information is at the top of that first page. Keep them engaged when they're reading your resume. Of course, don't use I, don't use personal pronouns. You want to, don't say I did this or I achieved this, I obtained this certification. So just put obtain certification and list those certifications. So using those action verbs that I talked about in the do's could really, really help in excluding that I from your resume. Another don't when it comes to resumes is don't use crazy fonts or colors unless you're looking for a creative role. So if you're applying for a job that requires creativity, then absolutely you want to use different colors in your resume, different formats that are non-traditional. But for most candidates, that traditional resume is what you really want to stick to. Use a format that works for you, and really make sure the content is solid. And then don't send a laundry list. So, don't list 10, 15 bullet points. Keep that concise. Maybe I suggest probably between 5 and 7 bullet points should be your max when you're listing bullet points. So anything more than that, that's probably what you want to save for an interview. So really think hard about what are the bullet points I want to talk about. Don't just talk about your job duties, but what did you accomplish on the job? So reflect back, in your previous work experience and not your day to day, but what are some of the big projects that you worked on, or what are some of the things you accomplished? What are some things that really made you stand out within that company or within your team? And so you want to make sure you're leaving it more accomplishment focused versus just duty focused when listing those bullet points within your resume. And then lastly, don't send a resume or cover letter with typos. And so this goes back to my do of making sure you have someone proofread it. And having that second set of eyes really can help with your resume. You're going to spend a lot of time reviewing your resume and revising it. So take a break and then take a look at it. Take a break and then take a look at it. This isn't something that you can do, in a short amount of time. A resume really takes attention. And so having someone else, a fresh set of eyes, look over it could really, really help in giving you some ideas and just some thoughts from another reader. So making sure that you're utilizing resources or individuals that can help you in proofing, reading, and giving you some fresh tips and ideas. So with this, I hope that you have some takeaways and just a few ways that you can help as you're revising your resume during this time. And again, I'm just like Ryan. I am happy to answer any questions that you might have at the end of the presentation. So I wish you all the best. And once again, thank you so much for having me.
Kim, thank you so much. Those resume tips were definitely relevant and definitely needed at this time, so thank you. So now I'd like to introduce Betsy Hinman with the Hinman Company. Betsy, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen now. Can you see my screen that says Why LinkedIn on it? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so a lot of good information from Kim on resume tips. That was so good, and I know the job fairs and things from Lita are going to be helpful. In listening to this as a person who's outside the oil and gas industry, and it seems like it could be really daunting. All the statistics about jobs that were shared at the beginning, and the political situation and the rig count. And I just feel like I want to remind people that you don't have to solve all of those problems. All you have to do is find one job. So be encouraged that you really can do it. You have to just find one job is all you need. It is exciting to be here to help solve some of your questions about LinkedIn. And I'm going to go pretty quickly through my presentation, and I might be talking really fast, but you will have a recording of it. And you can also always email me, and I'll provide my email at the end. I definitely want to take this time to sort of make you feel a little bit excited about this amazing tool that you have at your disposal that you may not have had in the 80s, when Lafayette went through all these things. And you may have had it, but it wouldn't be nearly as robust and effective as it is now. Let's see, so here we go. Hopefully. I'm gonna be fast. I may not hit all these points, but the question about why LinkedIn is that it's going to help you get connected. And one of the things that Ryan said was it's just really important to be connected, and whether you do it through job fairs or online, LinkedIn is going to help connect you past the immediate parties that you already know. It's going to help you be top of mind and appear in online search results and get referrals, discover opportunities. So it's a worthwhile not only doing what Kim says about slowing down and taking the time on your resume, but also making sure you slow down and take time to get your presence on LinkedIn updated. And then finally, probably, unless you have a Wikipedia page, your LinkedIn profile is going to be the first thing that comes up when someone Googles your name. So you also want to put some effort there. So there's a a ton of tips online already about updating your profile picture and your about section and your headline and your job experience, and all of those things are important. What I decided to do with just the time that I have today is to go to sort of the non-obvious things like that. So, obviously you want to get your LinkedIn profile updated, and there's a lot of resources on how to do that. But what I'm going to do is talk about some of the things that you may not have thought about that you can do, assuming your LinkedIn profile is up to date. And one of them is to just start to follow fresh perspectives. You've been in the oil and gas industry. We know you need to take advantage of all those transferable skills and probably move to another industry unless you want to move geographically. And so you might be moving into construction or transportation or some other industry. So you want to go find out what those trade publications are. You want to find out who the industry leaders are, and maybe make a list of 20 companies that you are in that industry, and just go follow those companies, and then look up the CEO and the person that's at the head of whatever division you're in. Engineering, kind of find those people online and just go follow them. You also want to look for conferences in that region. The conference may not be happening, but a lot of activity still happens around those pages and those hashtags. You want to, if you're moving, you want to go look at regional publications, or make sure you're following your own regional publications and civic leaders that might be early to post about job announcements or new companies moving to town. And then some do's. Okay, let's say you've updated your following, and you've gone in there and you've unfollowed all the sort of people that just fill up your feed with platitudes, or people that you really don't care what they're doing. Go and actively unfollow all those people so that your feed is a vibrant, interesting place for you in your job search. So that's one of the first things you want to do is, let's say, clear out the clutter. And let's say you've cleared out the clutter and you've gone to follow all kind of new, interesting people that are the actually doers in the industry that you want to be in. Then the next step is to connect with them. So first you want to check your connections. You may not be active on LinkedIn, and you may not even be connected to people that you currently work with or that you currently share emails with. So get your connections, low-hanging fruit, up to date, and then set an intention of, I'm going to connect with people today. I'm going to connect with people that work at the utilities industry, and sit down and actively try to do that. How do you get connected? You first want to follow people, and then you want to start to engage with their content. So you can follow anyone. You don't need their permission. You can go and follow them, engage with their content using real insights about your experiences, adding to their point, just participating in a valuable way. And then just sort of listen to what's happening and look for an open moment with them, where maybe they've just given a talk, or maybe they've just been on a podcast, or maybe they've just changed jobs. And when you find those little open moments, it's an opportunity to send a connection request, a personalized connection request using their name, and to say, I'd love to connect with you. When you send a connection request to someone, don't multitask in the connection request. I'd like to connect with you. I'm looking for a job, and can we chat so I can pick your brain? Just say, I'm Betsy Heineman, and I'd love to connect here on LinkedIn, using their first name and pointing out something maybe that you've read that they've written. But just keep your goal to just getting the connection. You don't want to multitask. You don't want to include a link to something you're selling, or some event you're pushing, or some website. You don't want to automate this. You want this to be something that's really done from you. And then once you do get the connection, don't immediately pitch them for an interview in their DMs. Give it some time and build that relationship with some valuable engagement in their content. So you might say, okay, well, those are some connection ideas, but how do I even begin to know who to connect with? So searching is the next thing I want to cover. So And this is, this is for people who don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So hopefully some of this will be valuable. But when you get on LinkedIn and you look at the top, there's a search field. You can put anything in that search field: job titles, keywords, people's names, put anything you want in there. And then once you hit search, you see where it says jobs right here. I selected jobs. And then the next thing you want to do is go over to all filters. A lot of people don't know about this all filters section, but once you do that, it's going to open up an entire menu of things that will enable you to filter, to look for people to connect with. Another thing that you might not have thought about doing is when you take, a lot of you have skills that are transferable to other industries and also skills that can be done online. So you can think outside your region when you update your LinkedIn. If you've got data analysis, or you've got administrative, or you've got sales even, there's a lot of things now that can be done remotely. So that's another reason that you're sort of better off. But look for, under all filters, look for this little place here where you can indicate that you're open to remote, or you're looking for jobs that are open to remote. You see in this one, I put data analysis as that's a skill. And so I just encourage you to really play around with it. And then once you start building these search capabilities, another idea is to go to big employers in your region. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and one of the biggest employers here is Bridgestone, right? So I intentionally go to the Bridgestone LinkedIn page and I search by jobs, which is right here, jobs, and then I turn on an alert so that I will get an alert when that company posts new positions. Another way that you can search and get connected is for searching for recruiters. All right, so if you put the type of recruiter, you're an IT person, or you're a mechanical maintenance person, or there's some, healthcare, you can put that word and recruiter in the search field, and then all filters again, and then look for recruiters to connect with. And you'll have to remember when you go to connect with recruiters that a lot of people are trying to connect with them, so you'll need to follow them, you'll need to engage and provide value, and then you'll need to send a personalized request that doesn't immediately ask them for a job. And then the last thing I want to say about searching ideas is that I've got lucked out somehow and got connected to the mayor, right? So you've probably got one great connection that is really connected further than you. So you can, using those filters, you can put a person you're connected to in the filter, and then second party connections. So now you're searching in Mayor John Cooper's connections for somebody that you want to connect with. So think about who you know that you could do that with, and then that gives you an idea of how to find more people to connect with. How do you do that once you do it? Well, I'll get to that in just a second. Another idea on searching, because I'm really into this idea, is to use the title field and use the Boolean connector, the Boolean search method, where you can put the word "and" in all caps, or you can put the word "or" in all caps. So if you want to ask yourself, and I put up in the search field renewable and job, and this is just like a keyword search. It's going to go through anyone's entire profile. And then I am in the title, I'm putting human and VP. I'm trying to get to human resources people that are VP level in the renewable industry. All right, so there's another idea for searching using the job title field. And I did that, by the way, and it worked. I mean, there was lots of human resources people in the renewable field that came up. And then if you combine that with maybe the remote checkpoint, that could be an idea. So once you find these people, let's say you want to get connected with them. LinkedIn is the new word of mouth. It's for a lot of reasons, people prefer to be on social media now than they do other, just going to websites and things like that. It's a great way to get connected to people. So let's say I have a desire to be connected to Dropbox, to somebody at Dropbox. So I'm going to search for, this is on mobile, I'm going to search for Dropbox. And then I'm going to see there's 2 people at Dropbox that I am a second party connection to. And I look here at Tiffin, and I have 8 shared connections with him. Okay, so then I'm going to see who those 8 shared people are, and I'm going to ask myself, I know my target, number 1, that's Dropbox. Then I need to know in my own mind why it's in Dropbox's interest to know me. And I need to tell that to those those 8 people that are our mutual connections. So I'm going to ask myself, of those 8 people that we're both connected with, who do I think Tiffin knows best, and who has power over them and also a desire to help me? So they need those 2 things. They need to have a pretty high status relationship with the person you want to be connected with, and then they need to have a desire to help you. When you find that one person, then you can go to them and ask for an introduction. So you can just ask them, is it okay if I send a connection request to Tiffin and mention you in the connection request? Or would you mind making through an in-mail or an email an introduction for me with Tiffin? One thing to watch out for, when you decide, okay, I'm going for it, I'm going to try to get this connection with this VP at Dropbox, and you're on your phone, which people are most of the time now, you want to make sure that you don't just hit connect, because that will send a non-personalized connection request. If you are on mobile, you hit more, and then you'll get a little drop-down menu, and it'll say personalize invite, and that's what you want to do. If you're on desktop, it'll take care of that for you. It'll stop you and say, wait a minute, do you want to personalize? But on mobile, it will not. So if you're doing this on mobile, just make sure that you hit the more, and then you personalize it before you send it. Okay, raising your visibility on LinkedIn. One of the best things that you can do is to post and comment yourself. So a few thoughts about that. When you are posting content on LinkedIn, text with an image is going to perform really well. Just sharing a link to a website outside of LinkedIn is not going to perform as well. Sharing a YouTube link is going to not even go very far at all. So when I talk about performing well, what I mean is the reach that LinkedIn gives your post. So we know that LinkedIn, if you have 1,000 friends, they're not going to show every post to all 1,000 people. They're going to make a decision about the subset of people that they send it to. And they're going to send it to a bigger group, a bigger subset of your 1,000 connections if it's text and an image, or text and a document, or text only, or native video. And they're going to send it to fewer of your connections if it's an external link. I hope that makes sense. What should you share when you're on LinkedIn? You want to think about sharing questions that come to you frequently about your skills. So what you're trying to do is to take your skill set and transfer it to another industry. So you want to post things about your skills and your experience, and leave it all on the field. Give a long form, talk about your stories, tell about your experience and skills, and you can curate news from other sources in your industry that's desired that you're going to go to. And then you can join conversations that are already in progress. So talking about those influencers in the industry that we talked about on the first slide, look at what they're talking about. Put their names up on your wall and say, every day I'm going to go check and see what these 15 people are saying on LinkedIn, and look for a way to join that conversation in the comments in a way that adds value, in a way that makes the conversation go even deeper. And then in looking at when you're on LinkedIn, you'll see there's trending topics. You can join those conversations as well. And if you have time, you can spend a little time researching the hashtags in your industry, and see what conversations are happening around. I know there's a hashtag oil and gas life. There's in every industry there's going to be hashtags, but you need to go and look at the industry that you're trying to move to and see what those hashtags are. There's a website called hashtagify.me that's free. You could just go there and find hashtags that are being used. this may be a stretch. I don't know you, and maybe you're not a person that's really comfortable with LinkedIn and, doing this kind of thing. So bear with me. But this is just an example from someone on Twitter, okay, that was furloughed. Excuse me. And what he's done is he's done a post, I've been furloughed, and then he's replied to his own post talking about showcasing his various wins, examples of his work, case studies, different skills. So it's a thread where he's just replying to his own post, and it's great. And if you're the kind of person that's comfortable doing that kind of thing, and you can do that and list all your different examples, it's probably the kind of thing that would get a lot of engagement on LinkedIn. I thought that was pretty cool. I haven't seen a lot of that on LinkedIn, but it is a good example of thinking outside the box. You got to stand out to get attention, right? So how am I doing on time? Is that about? Hopefully that's about it, Corinne.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. I can honestly say that I learned a few tips from LinkedIn as well. So thank you for sharing your knowledge.
Okay, can I say one more thing?
Absolutely. You have
Okay.
about 2 more minutes, so please continue.
Okay, all right, good. So if anyone is sort of bummed out that I didn't go into profiles and what to do with your photo and your headline and all of that, I have a whole bunch of other slides on that. And if you send me an email, it's on the screen there, betsy@hymancompany.com. I'll be happy to send you those slides. And also I want to tell you that LinkedIn has a lot of courses that are free right now. If you search LinkedIn Learning or Linda with a Y, you can get on LinkedIn and you can take a lot of courses about how to have a good engagement on LinkedIn and how to have a great profile. So I just wanted to finish up with that, and I wish you all the best. I know you're gonna find a great job.
Thank you, Betsy. Well, that is a perfect segue into our Q&A section of our presentation. And someone typed in during your presentation with a tip, and I would like for you to expand on it just a bit. Use a professional picture, not your last fishing or hunting trip. Also, make sure your email address is professional, not some silly, cute handle. So could you please speak more to that?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I love the comment about the email address. Get a and everybody coming out of college especially needs to. I have kids that age, and I know their email addresses are. So yeah, that's a great tip. And with your headshot, you want to make sure you're, if you can get a professional photo, that's ideal. You want your head to fill up about 75% and not have like some disembodied arm, where you've just captured it. You'll look better if you take the time to get a well-lit professional headshot for sure. And if you don't have anything on there, that's the absolute worst thing, is to have just a gray box with a silhouette from LinkedIn. So take the time to get a professional headshot, absolutely.
Thank you. So Ryan, can you speak to potential headshot photo opportunities at in-person job fairs that may be available in the coming months or into the future? Do y'all offer those services?
We haven't had it at the LIDA job fair. I know that the university has offered it at some of their events.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Another question that came through relating to LinkedIn, go out and join groups in your industry that you have interest to join. So Betsy, can you tell me more about groups? I'm not as familiar with those.
Yes, I had about 6 slides on groups to put in here, but yeah, groups aren't terribly active. However, if you find one or two that is, it's a great way to expand your connections. So what you want to do is when you get on LinkedIn, over on the right, there's a little tiny box, and you can click on it and search within groups, and you can do that Boolean search thing where you search for, if you're looking for associations of coaches, you could do coaches and all caps associations, and searching within groups. And then you'll find all these groups, you just go join them and participate. That you'll have to be admitted by the administrator. And then if you start immediately posting about how you're looking for a job, they'll probably kick you out. So you need to just post valuable, insightful comment about your skills and your experience, but search diligently for groups, and don't forget publications. All the trade publications in an industry typically have a group, and those are sort of the better ones. You know, so like World Oil and Rig Zone both have groups on LinkedIn. And whatever industry you're trying to go to, think about what the trade publication is in that industry, and they probably have a group, and that might be the best one to start with. But once you start searching, you'll find all kind of groups. Some of them are dead and nothing's going to happen, but you may find that if you participate in them, you will expand your reach and make a new connection.
Thank you for that. Excellent. Kim, we have a question for you. The question asks, when updating your resume, would you recommend including your high school education, your high school under the education section, or would it be best to start with your college or technical college experience?
My suggestion is high school, they're really not looking at that, especially, you know, once you go into higher ed, or if you have some technical school, community college, university degree, you can take that high school off. That saves room on your resume for more relevant information. So typically, you know, once you obtain that degree, you can pull your high school off. So that's a really great question.
Thank you for that. Gifford, we have a question that has come in for you.
Hi, I'm here.
All right. And it relates to the legislature special session that is going on now. Can you share any proposals, if any, that will be presented during the special session that are relevant to the oil and gas industry?
Well, you know, our big issues that we were trying to push through to provide some relief to industry happened in the regular session. We had legislation trying to address our legal climate and to lower the severance tax rate on oil. Unfortunately, both of those measures failed to be able to move all the way through the process. The lawsuit legislation was specifically stalled due to just a shortened session because it had to go to so many committees. And then ultimately the fiscal impact and cost to the state on the severance tax piece caused it to be put aside. It's very difficult to convince the fiscal office at the legislature that lowering a tax rate is going to increase investment. And so they decided to put it aside, although we will be revisiting both issues in future legislative sessions.
Great. Thank you so much for that. We have time for just a few more questions. Going back to the resume, the question states, what is the history limit on previous employment? How many years back is too far?
That's a great question. It really depends on how relevant those jobs are to the industry, and to where did you gain the skills that are relevant to what you're applying for. So there's no magic, you know, there's no cutoff limit. It could be 2 years, it could be 10 years. It's really just take a look at it and say, how, you know, this job that I had 12 years ago, is it relevant to what I'm applying for? Or did I gain skills at that job that I want to show as I'm applying for this new job? So it really, you know, it really just depends. That question is asked very often, and you know, and sometimes you really have to sort of pick and choose what you're going to put on your resume to keep the length, you know, somewhat to one page or to 2 pages. But with that question, like I said, it really just depends on how relevant that experience is to what you're applying for.
Great, thank you for that.
Corinne, I love that. I think that is so right, especially when, you know, Kim talks about keeping it to a page, 1 page. And when people, I once heard somebody tell an analogy about how if someone comes to your kitchen and they ask for a BLT, you don't want to also say, yeah, I can make you a BLT, and I'm also going to put peanut butter and Nutella and banana and everything else I have in my kitchen on that sandwich. right? So that goes to customizing your resume for the job. Just give them the BLT and don't take them through sort of like every other ingredient that you have in your pantry.
Great, thank you for that.
It all comes back
So,
to food.
of course, especially in South Louisiana. So we have time for one more question. Ryan, this is for you. Do you have any data related to those hired as a result of the job fairs that have been hosted recently?
I can give an example. Annually, I mentioned we host the LEDA job fair every May. And last year we had approximately 1,500 job seekers, just over 100 employers. Over the years, the energy sector is always one company that's always, one industry that's always participated in that event. And last year, I think it was the second or third, most prominent booth number as far as industries represented. But last year, with 1,500 job seekers, there were 53 job offers that were made the day of the event. So we capture some data from the companies at the event itself. And of that, companies also reported that they were planning to schedule interviews with approximately 600 of those 1,500 individuals. So a lot of times it's that very first touch that the companies have with the job seekers that are at the event. And it allows job seekers to make that good first impression and finally speak to a person. Because often we hear, I applied online, I didn't hear anything. But this gives them a chance to get that face-to-face interaction. But 600 people getting that follow-up interview, I feel is definitely a big benefit to the individuals seeking employment and the industry making those connections.
Absolutely, that's definitely an amazing stat. So thank you for sharing that. So we have reached the 10 o'clock hour. We will wrap up now. There have been a few questions that have come through that we did not have time to answer. We will be reaching out individually to answer your questions, and with your permission, possibly also include on our website with the copy of this recorded session. As a reminder, this whole presentation has been recorded. We will be featuring it on our LAGCO website. I know that there might have been a little bit of technical difficulties logging on, so we're going to reach out to all of our registrants to make sure that they know the presentation itself has been recorded and is posted. I'd like to sincerely thank our guests for their time and expertise this morning. The information that you've provided was so relevant and timely. I'd like to also thank all of our participants for joining this morning. Hopefully you've identified small changes to make with either your resume or LinkedIn profile to aid in your job search. Thank you all for joining us, and we wish you well in your job search. Have a great day.
Thank you. Good
Goodbye,
luck.
everyone. Thank y'all.